יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
Welcome, everybody, to Torah Made Flesh. We're back like a bad penny. And I have with me here the donkey himself, who's getting ready to be the flying donkey coming across the lake over here, Curtis Reid. What's up, brother? It's been a minute.
Hey, bro. Yeah. Well, lots of stuff going on this end, but getting ready to fly out tomorrow. And, heading back across the ditch and be hitting North America Sunday afternoon.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. It's pretty exciting. So, it's very exciting, especially, we've been talking about some of the things we can get into, but want to give everybody a quick update. It's been a few weeks, and I've had quite a few things going on, and obviously some of y'all know I ended up going out of town for a little bit to be with someone during a little bit of a difficult time, but that's all right. The Father is good and taking care of that. And then my brother here decided to try to, cut his hand off chasing his dog. So
yeah.
So that was kind of emergency happened. That was on a Shabbat for us. So, that was not good. Matter of fact, I think we was going to do this show we're going to do tonight. That night that you ended up having to go to the hospital and
rushed into the hospital.
Yeah.
Just for everybody to see, yeah. I'm down now to the splint thing, but I was in a big cast and sling and stuff like that. But I got my feeling back in my forefingers, so now I'm down to just managing the flesh wound, and they had to reattach the ligament, and there was a slice through the muscles and the nerves. And I had 23 stitches externally, and then I had all the stitches internally, which have to dissolve. So it was quite a little bit of a serious operation, and but they cleared me to fly this past week. So we didn't change that. I guess I'm just not as useful when I arrived there on that end. I'm just counting my blessings really at the end of the day. I mean, it's not fun. It's not easy to go through, but just kind of fighting now over the next few months to try and regain use of my right thumb. Basically, yeah.
Yep.
Let the nerve tissue all heal and the tendon. So
for sure.
Yeah. So that's not been a lot of fun, but I really do appreciate. I've had lots of people write in and just prayers and everything like that. The doctors say that I'm healing quicker and better than expected at this stage, and so I just want to really thank everybody for that, because it really means a lot, especially when we're basically unloading the camels and we're burning the canoes on this end. I mean, Pip and I don't even own a chair. Like literally have our bags and that's it. We don't
know the dog.
We don't know anything. We've truly burnt the canoes. So we're that's it. So we've really appreciated that. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone for their prayers and their support and their patience. Because I will be going off grid here, Daniel, as you know.
Yep.
And be a few inconsistencies over the next few months while I get
set up.
Restabilized on that end. I've just got to take the hit and go through this. But hopefully we'll be able to do things there. But I'm going to try and work with you to get our brother Michael to come on and do some testimony and maybe some teachings, and also Brother Tom. And so I've spoken to them, and they'll look like they're going to work with you in the program, help take my seat for a while, and
yep.
But if everybody can just bear with me and continue their prayers and patience, it's much appreciated. But it's very disruptive right now.
For sure.
Very difficult. We're up here at Pip's parents right now, and then I'm tomorrow, and so everything has just been coming at us, and then I have this whole serious incident through it all. So it's not been the most fun, and I know that you've been away,
Yep.
living out Galatians 6:2 with a dear brother, and you know what, Daniel, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, we got to live this stuff, and you went up there to be with a brother, and I couldn't think of anybody better to be with him. And tragic situation, and we can't just talk this stuff, we got to live it. And you did. You got on an airplane, you got up there, and you were with him, and that's ultimately where the rubber meets the road, brother. And so there's some delays in some programs and all that kind of stuff, but
real life happens, and
yeah, it does.
There's certain things that come up that, like it does take precedence. And that was just one of them. It was very honoring to be able to, be there to help and just sit there. Just sit there. Don't even have to say nothing. It's like just to sit there and be with him. And, through one of the most suckiest things you could ever think of. But, the Father is good, and there's always a plan, and he's always at the helm. So we just got to learn to trust him and trust what he's doing, even though it can hurt real bad. But I'm very thankful to got the opportunity to do that. So, but I've been on the phone with Michael. He's gonna come on, do some testimony, and I've already kind of got that in the works. So get some more shows rolling here.
Yeah, well, it's a dear brother, and he's been involved with the discipleship stuff now, over the past year, and Father's done lots of neat stuff with him since, and raising him up to do some great teachings, and being a part of the discipleship house. And so I'm on to do a testimony and introduce him, and just keep operating as a body. So that's really great too. So at the end of the day, maybe me being taken off for a while is a good thing, and I can try and get my act together on that end, because there's a lot of challenges ahead for us.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
But
it's I think it is going to be good, and I think people will really love Michael. He's a great guy. He's very very down to earth. He's got some great teachings. So but we'll do an introduction with him, let people get to know him, and he's pretty excited too. And being where he's at, he's kind of had some issues too, because they moved and they're having internet issues and not being able to get connected up. And so there's a little bit of everything going on. So life happens. But tonight we get to finish up the series that the 4-part series we just did, and get to do a little postscript after session type discussion. So I think this is going to be really fun, and I think you get to kind of land home some things that maybe there's been a few questions on the that people had about certain things. So I think now you get to kind of address them and kind of land them where they need to be. So I'm looking forward to this discussion too, and then I'm looking forward to all the other teachings. I can't wait for the whole Clash of Civilizations. That's going to be really, really good. So
yeah. Well, we'll get back into things, like I say, when I'm from that end, and
for sure,
preparing for Unleavened, and on the pain, and so people are doing their things, but like I say, I'm excited, and we'll be doing some neat things when we get over there, and we'll see who wants to come along on the journey, and see where we can all see where the Father's kind of taking everything as we continue to grow and learn together as a body, this stuff out. But yeah, so we go through something like the Messiah Deception series, and each part kind of raises its own kind of questions and things like that. And I'm not sure what was raised or anything raised on your end, but I think sometimes it's good just to have a little bit of a follow-up interview like this. We don't have to make a big sort of program out of it, but at least it gives a chance just to give some perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I know we don't need to make a spectacle, but
Well, look, at the end of the day, there's been so much feedback and things on it, and it really does challenge sometimes our paradigms and what we've been taught and belief systems in the house and all this kind of things, and people don't understand, and I know from my Christian brothers and sisters, they just even realizing that the name Jesus wasn't used until 500 years ago, they don't really, these just aren't things that people think about, and to understand that, if we get caught up in how the religious historical accounts have been managed and put forth and without some critical thought, then we just kind of think that everybody's kind of telling us, exactly how it was, and we don't realize that no. There's been some agendas over the last 2,000 years that have crept in, which Scripture was warning about, and it's not to freak out, but it is to understand that these things are real and that we've got to, perhaps, maybe grow up a little bit or re-challenge some of our thinking on issues. And we all face that and we all go on that journey. So, but something like the Messiah Deception series really does challenge that in people, on a number of fronts.
Oh yeah, for sure. It really does. And I have had some good questions raised about certain things. And obviously there's people that, get a little upset because something like that teaching really does kind of put it in your face, about, like one question, for instance, is someone commented and said, well, if his name isn't Jesus, how come I've seen people be healed in that name before? And, and it wasn't like a derogatory thing. They weren't trying to be mean. It was not like, it was a genuine question. Like, oh, how do you explain this away? Like so what's going on with this type of thing? So, there's a lot of questions that make people, or a lot of things that make people think about that. Like that's, to me, I think that's a good question. That's something that can be addressed and scripturally, but at the same time, like that's the majority of people, right? Especially on the Christian side of the riverbank, they're going to have these kind of questions because there are things that happen. In my personal life, when I was younger, that's the only name I knew that the Messiah by. And there's no doubt in my mind that he didn't show up at that name for me. You know what I mean? Like, but that's all I knew. It was very basic. It was very, it was, as a child. And there's no way that I don't think he would let anything like that stop him from reaching out to people who believe. But at the same time, the issue with the name is it's what that's become and represented is, it's not the name in general. It's what that name represents. And it represents the lawless one. It does. Paul talks about it. Yeshua talks about it. That's what that represents. So, putting that out there, I think brings some uncomfort to people that's in church. They hear that and they're like, what? That's blaspheming. You're calling, my Messiah the anti-Messiah. It's like, not in general.
Your Messiah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's a very interesting.
Yeah. So, because it's all about the personal relationship with your Messiah. And it's, and I feel, look, I was there, you were there. We all know it's like, so when you hear things like some of these, I can understand why people get concerned. And the first thing they think of is like, wow, these dudes are really off their rocker. who are these dudes? But I think if you give it enough time, just like anything, and you listen to the teachings, I think then you'll really understand. It's like, wait a minute, maybe I should go back and reread about who my Messiah is and what are the characteristics of him. Not just the name, but what's his characteristics. Then you can understand, oh, wait a minute. Now I understand why the characteristics that are associated with the name of Jesus are, you know what I mean? It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Leave that part out, So
Well, I tell you, I warn about abracadabra, which is the incantation of names and things like this exists in the occultic world, and we get into this hocus pocus, and then I, have my little slang term of, Harry Potter spirituality.
Yep.
But what a lot of people don't realize is I warn about this on both sides, because both sides of the river, each riverbank, be it, from a Judeo-Messianic Hebrew or from a 30,000 plus Christian denomination perspective, we've got the whole warning of the Messiah deception is that Babylon, Mystery Babylon, has morphed and makes her way into any way or paradigm that we view or try to view truth, the Creator, our Messiah, how, what the whole plan of redemption and salvation is. It's doing this. Scripture warns us, tells us she's going to, and it plays a purpose that the Father is allowing. So don't freak out. And I warn both sides. I see people on, this side of the riverbank going, well, no, his name's Yehoshua, or it's, Yahushua, it's, whatever. And and again, they're becoming just as guilty of my Christian brothers and sisters that are saying no other name but the name Jesus, or the name Jesus. And, this, and what happens is you're being caught up in a pronunciation of a name. And it is actually a form of idolatry that gets attached to this. Because your identity and your belief structure, your belief system, somebody like, me comes along and says, well, look, you do realize we've only, this name Jesus has only been used for the last 500 years. All of a sudden, they almost take it as a personal attack because their actual identity in their belief structure is being shaken or being disturbed, I should say. And so they take it as an attack, and it's got nothing to do with an attack any more than when I'm speaking to people on the Messianic Hebrew root side going, listen, the name of the Father, you call him Yahuwah, others say Yahovah, others say Yahweh, others say Yahweh. It's like, I'm sorry, stop getting the arguments around this. This is true authority issues. The Father knows who's responding to him and how they're responding. And so I know that, yes, Jesus was the only name that I knew that was identified to my Messiah and in the blood that had bought me as a little child. I didn't know the full understanding of the plan of redemption, the why, the things that I speak about and talk about and teach about now. But I do know there was a Messiah sitting on the throne that still was with this little child. And but as I grew up, I didn't take offense to understanding that 2,000 years ago he wasn't called Jesus. I was more fascinated and understood that now that I'm starting to learn and understand a bit more, that that wasn't the name he was addressed by. Now, if I go now on the other side and go, well, we've got to say his name right, then you have the exact same issues going on the other side of the river. And I see it now on the Hebrew Messianic side. They're as much trying to invoke abracadabra as the Christians are. They get upset about, saying, well, what do you mean his name's not Jesus and all this kind of thing. And I'm going, stop it. If this was about phonetic pronunciation, if it really was about that, then he's left spiritual power in the hands of whoever can phonetically pronounce his name correctly. Now, there were people that went around trying to use the name of Yeshua, or Yeshua, or Yehoshua, or whatever you want to say, 2,000 years ago. And those people got in trouble because they were not coming in the authority. And this is recorded in the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament. They got in serious trouble. Now, don't tell me they weren't pronouncing his name right.
They were very close to they were within years of him being alive. So, of course, they're going to know how he
They
was
knew that
pronounced.
it was addressed. You know, I don't care what discussions we want to have 2,000 years later. So they were phonetically pronouncing this right, yet they were in big trouble.
Because they didn't have his authority.
Correct. And we need to really get this. What are we witnessing and seeing in the Brit Hadashah? So stop it on both sides. I'm sick of this and seeing the division and the stupid little petty comments and people, and I see it in a spiritual immaturity or idolatry, whatever. This isn't about knowledge. This is about where we're at with a heart circumcision. And, you know, I was having a chat to a brother the other day, and I said, it says, when they're standing before Yeshua, the judgment seat of Messiah. And it says, depart from me, I never knew you. you who practice lawlessness and so
iniquity, whatever,
yeah, and I said to this person, you know, and they liked as they got the point of going at this is tantamount, because the issue is I never knew you. So there's a respect and a sovereignty that Messiah is giving to our journey. Do we allow him into our lives? Are we walking in a place where he can actually do heart circumcision, not just penis circumcision? You know, the shadow pictures that would point to this greater plan and understanding of redemption. And if we don't get this, we focus on the what's, not the why. And the ultimate whys of this heart circumcision. And it's tantamount. He might as well have said, depart from me, you who never knew heart circumcision, or didn't allow heart circumcision, would be more. You know, did you really allow? Because I'll tell you, anybody who deals with matters of the heart with another brother or sister, when you engage at that level of intimacy, they get to know you. And this is exactly what he's saying. I never knew you. And so it doesn't matter what we think about how we know him and, you know, my Messiah or my Jesus or whatever else it is. There's a statement here of absolute sovereignty, I believe, that's going on. And he's saying you are going to journey into this place where you allow the relationship from your end. And the only way I know that that's truly going to occur is when we're actually experiencing actual heart circumcision, and our very character is going to have to be grown, challenged, refined in fire, and be able to grow to the fullness of Messiah. And essentially, Mystery Babylon on both sides of the river is destroying this process, be it the Christian side, be it the other side, the Messianic Judeo-Hebrew side, the Mystery Babylon components. Now, that doesn't mean there's not truth sitting on each riverbank. But we need to get into the river and allow the process to happen so that we can allow this two-way interaction with our Creator. And so it's just funny when people see, when you're trying to address how deception might be brought across from Mystery Babylon, they take offense that, well, you know, would he use the name Jesus? Well, of course he would. There's no reason. That's not off limits to the God of this world to be able to use that and to work with that deception in order to fool people. And that's all it's simply doing. Now, the fact that you've only known the Messiah and called him Jesus your whole life is not an attack on you, nor saying that you know, somehow the Messiah doesn't have interest in who you are in your life and he's not looking after you and watching over you any more than he was me from 9 years old as a little boy. And so I just wanted to make that clear and put that into perspective for people, especially in relationship to part 4. Because sometimes the offense or the idolatry or the attachment to abracadabra type spirituality is so strong that there's an emotional reaction as opposed to hearing what's actually being said and warned about. And what I'm warning about is a deception by the God of this world that is being allowed, which the Elohim of the universe is saying is a great deception. Yeah. And that's the thing I'm trying to get people to sink into their heads. This is not down to just one little component or these eschatologies or all these things that have been taught in Bible prophecy in their little bits and pieces. And everybody's trying to reduce it to one event or one scenario. You know, and I'm trying to outlay that Mystery Babylon is sitting in all of the world's major religions.
Everything.
And Babylon is weaving deception in Judaism. It is weaving deception in the Hebrew roots Messianic movement. It is weaving deception in the Christian 30,000 plus denominations. Understand this, people, that the religious and political worlds are under the control of the God of this world.
Absolutely.
And it's bigger than you think, and trying to reduce it to your compartmentalization or whatever way you were taught Bible prophecy is going to be left wanting in the grand crescendo of this scenario. What I'm saying is it's quite possible we are living the generation where we may actually see the fulfillment of this, should the Father keep us alive, in our own allotted time within the time domain. So we are entering into interesting times, and this is unfolding across the world right now. There are people waking up. And what I'm saying to people is, listen, you're of the netzer, you're not serene. We're to be in the river of life. And I base this, and again, we're going to do this program when I get back. We talked about this, about really understanding where am I coming from when I'm talking about the prophecies of Daniel and how this relates to my river, the analogy. Yeah, because it has very serious prophetic significance and something that was given to me in the fires of my life. And it's not just a nice analogy. There's actually very serious biblical prophecy attached to this analogy, and I didn't come up with it. Exactly. I'm just relating to it to try and have people understand. And so, but I see it all the time where people, they react as opposed to going, okay, what is he saying? Why is he saying that? And people, and also too, there's the other side. We wake up and we realize, you mean I've been lied to, or I've been told the whole truth? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, for sure.
We haven't.
Well, even with like what you were talking about circumcision, that's why I was looking it up while you were talking about it. I wanted to just bring this up because I didn't know this until I learned it. It talks about the circumcision of the heart. Most Christianity don't realize that is literally in the Old Testament. That's not a new thing. Like that, the requirement of being circumcised on the heart has always been the same requirement as being circumcised in the flesh. Like he never changed that. That was just, Paul was reiterating what was already there. And I was just going to I found it in Jeremiah 4:4, where it says, circumcise yourselves unto Yahweh and take away the foreskins of your hearts, you men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my wrath come forth like fire and burn, with none to quench it because of your evil of your deeds. Like the requirement of always being circumcised in the heart has always been part of the covenant.
Well, Elohim is using, in that particular verse, he's actually using the shadow picture or the instruction within Torah that's supposed to point to the weightier matter.
That's right.
And Elohim itself is actually identifying or using the shadow picture that he created and the instructions of Torah of circumcision of the penis he's using that shadow picture to now display the weightier matter. And this is a very serious thing, and I have to say this to people. You get your penis cut. Well, job's not done.
No.
You're PTO'd. I'm sorry.
That's actually the easy part, even from a man's perspective. Even if you went out there with the flint rock at 75 years old, that's still easier than trying to deal with your heart.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's so much easier.
Well, if we can just tick the boxes and do these things, and it's like, again, it's this whole process of where, one side is going, no, you gotta do this, just tick the boxes, everything's fine. And then the Christian side is going, no, all that's been done away with, da, da, da. And it's like, people, stop trying to change Elohim. He says this, and he says this is why it is. Right. So get in the river and let's figure this out. And quite frankly, the amount of silliness that I've seen on both sides of the river, when we don't want to enter into a process of discipleship and walking with others and being willing to be able to go through this process, we get caught up in our knowledge or so-called knowledge or our religious paradigm that we've been raised under or whatever else it is, and or attached to, or in even some cases it becomes idolatry and actually starts to establish our identity. And this actually prevents us in the end from being able to see the great deception. And could this get to the level of how we even see our Messiah? Well, I'd suggest to you this is exactly what we're seeing, and it's occurring on a global scale. And this is all that we're trying to present as an example or as a possible scenario within the Messiah Deception series.
For sure.
know, and I just wish people could jump out of emotion and get in and go, believe me, if you think you've got the end time prophetic scenario figured out, I'm not making a claim, but yeah, understand this is Elohim saying it is great. And so I always have people trying to give me scenarios or this or that, and I look at it and go, you know, there's not a lot of scenarios I haven't heard, Daniel. And since speaking and raising all of these issues and the kind of midrash and discipleship I've been under regarding this particular subject matter, and people raise things to me and they think I've never heard it before or never considered it, and I go, fair enough, they're on their journey
for sure.
But just understand the real warning here is that it's bigger than you think, and it's more deceptive than you can comprehend.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to give this warning at this time, because if we don't get the leaven out of our house in this great time of the week of unleavened and the Pesach coming up, this is our time to go, you know, well, you know, Father, you know, is this donkey trying to raise something that might be valid, even though I know everything already? Well, I'm trying to say to somebody, yeah, I am. And you might want to take it to the Father and go, you know what, show me the leaven in my own house. And I do this every year. And Daniel, we've not made it. And we don't know everything that there is to know yet. And we're living in an incredible time of revelation and things that are being revealed.
Yep.
So I'm trying to say to people, get over yourselves. Get past yourselves. You don't know everything.
No, you don't.
You have everything sorted. We're in an incredible time. Let's help each other stay in a place of repentance, get into a place of teshuvah, and be in this place. But if we don't get over ourselves, we're going to deny the very revelation of the Ruach leading us unto all truth. And I'm saying to people, this is not a joke. You don't get to hang on to all your pride, arrogance, insecurities, all your knowledge, what you think you know, whatever it is, get upset emotionally at the donkey for saying something, and then all of a sudden that means you're off the hook. You know, and I try to say to people, you can shoot me all you want, or you can get upset at what I'm saying all you want. That doesn't change anything. You don't stand in front of me when this is all over. We have an appointment to stand in front of Messiah. And this is our time now to try and understand this the best we can. Well, we're in this fallen state where we need a lot of help. And apparently we're supposed to do this together and walk in discipleship and figure this out. And everybody's, you know, just this law unto themselves. And I'm going, people.
Many wax crows grow cold.
Yeah. You know, I have people come to me and go, don't you know this? Or what about this scripture? You know, whether it be Christian or whatnot. I'm going, do you think I came out of the womb talking like this?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you realize how much correction, reproof, midrash, the ability to try and, stay repentant myself in front of the throne, so I can still continue to grow and to learn and to understand and have precept upon precept, and how much fire and personal price and cost I've had in my own life. You know, it's like they talk to you, they're being upset emotionally as if you've never had the conversation before of whatever it is that they're keyboard warrioring on you.
You know, that's right.
Oh
man,
I understand, you know, it's just people do react, but I'm just trying to, after the reaction, take it to the Father.
Absolutely.
Well, truly take it to Him, and allow a process of intimacy that which can actually really help with the heart circumcision process, which is why we often have to go into the fires of our lives and things like that.
Well, and don't necessarily be so quick to jump down your brother's throat about anything, like whether he knows it or not. It doesn't really matter. Like, you can still go to him and be like, hey, why do you feel this way about XYZ, right? Like this situation. Well, show me in the scripture why you believe what's wrong with that, right? What's wrong with that? Instead of keyboard warding it, oh, you know, POS, you suck, and you know, you're an antichrist yourself, leading people to hell. It's like, dude, you don't even know me. Like, you literally don't even know me. And I'm like, really? Like, why don't you just pick up the phone or whatever, you know, send me a personal message and say, hey, man, look, I watched this or saw whatever, and I got butthurt about it, and I want to know why you think that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know,
I invite people to come into the stables as a guest, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
Brother, if you think you've got the knowledge and all truth on this issue, why don't you come and sit with a group of your brothers?
Show us.
And actually show us how much you know or think you know.
Yeah.
And do it in accountable way. Stop with your keyboard warning. Anybody can do that. Anybody can throw out shuds. We can enter or entertain Lashon Hara, and you can attack your brethren all you want, or come into accountable discipleship environment. You have the right to share what you're going to share, but you're going to do it in an accountable way. And you might just be surprised, especially in the discipleship environment, as you know, Daniel, in the stables, where you've got, 100 plus years of journeying in this walk in Torah, and you've got people that have gone through serious midrash, serious fires, have questioned that they understand, search the scriptures to see whether these things be so. Yep. You're seeing the work of the Ruach in their lives, and all of a sudden these people find themselves in a lot more accountable environment. And all of a sudden they don't know as much as they thought they know, or think they know, and because all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, we want you to think about, X, Y, B, and C. And it's like, so you're willing to hurl insults or have emotional reactions on a keyboard, but you're not willing to come into an accountable discipleship environment with your other brother.
Yep. Which is actually the biblical scriptural way that the Creator wants us to do it.
Correct. And this is what we are actually seeing in the Brit Hadashah.
But see, the difference is it takes a man to have to actually step up and do that, because a man has to be willing to also be wrong and be okay with being wrong. But like, I think that's what's missing in our society. Like, we don't have enough men stepping up. Like, everybody wants a keyboard warrior, but nobody wants to call somebody and go, hey, look, I got a problem with what you just taught. And it's real, like, I have a real problem with it. Man, is there a way we can, have a meeting or talk, or I could come into a discipleship? Like, we don't have that. People are scared of confrontation because they just think it always ends bad, because 9 times out of 10, and I come from the Christian church, you go to a pastor, you talk about it, all of a sudden, he's right about everything and you're wrong, and there is no discussion. There is no accountability for him. So, yeah, I can see where people get pissed off and think, oh, yeah, like, this is going to be any different than whatever. It is very different, because if you come to guys that are trying to do biblically, try to do it the right way, then there's a logical way to come in and have the discussion about it without throwing rocks at each other and, injuring each other in the way of, words or actions based on someone's opinion. It's okay. We don't have to agree. Doesn't mean you're not my brother no more. I'm not going to hit you over the rock with it because God likes your sacrifice better or whatever. It's like, come on, man, get out of here with that.
Well, we live in a world where, if you win an argument, therefore you're the holder of all truth. The reality of it is that we're learning and growing in our understanding of truth, or being corrected, reproved, or being confirmed. But you know what, Daniel, it's not hard for me to win arguments with people theologically, and so what? So I cut somebody down and win in an argument.
What do you really gain?
Exactly. It's a point where it's like, you know what, now if you want to have an argument with me and you want to do that, well, you better ask yourself your own motivations for that. But but I'm sitting there, I'm not scared of the argument. But point is what's the point of arguing for argument's sake? The real issue here is make yourself accountable. Give your views, but live and walk through them. I don't hold somebody's views against them. No. What I would say is, how are you going about living your life in the body of Messiah with these views? One day we're going to talk about this in a program, where I talk about Lashon Hara versus Hasak. And Hasak is the strengthening, the confirming, the building up of one another, versus, the tearing down in this derogatory type speech against our brethren without any form of accountability. And these shenanigans have got to stop in the body. If somebody doesn't want to be in an accountable environment and they just want to hurl rocks at me, you're a coward.
Absolutely. Keyboard warrior all day long.
You want to come and raise your view. I got no problem with that. But I'm sorry. We are going to talk about the issue. And we are going to go through this. And this is not a matter of winning an argument or a debate. This is a matter of taking very serious the process that we have, that we must engage in order to be led, or for the Ruach to lead us unto all truth.
That's right.
And it essentially allows us to grow. So, we'll do a program on, the Lashon Hara versus Hasak from, the Hebrew perspective of the way to engage in discipleship.
And I think even that in general, midrashing, people don't even understand how to midrash without incorporating Lashon Hara. They don't understand the actual biblical principle of, like hashing it out or midrashing is really to build one another up. And it's kind of like, it's not arguing to be arguing. It's discussion on a level where it's kind of like you want to help empower your brother, or the same thing for you if you're having an issue. It's like, that's why it's I've had some of the best times sitting around just a fire and with a Bible, talking with people. It's like, wow, you can really learn some great things by doing that. And people, they will put that off all day long. They think, home groups and all this stuff is where it's at. It's not where it's at. It's being able to come together and discuss something without an agenda. You can have your opinion, but just don't have an agenda, because once you have an agenda, then now you're trying to make everybody think the way your opinion is, or have this
point, or I'm offended, and therefore that's my reason for being here. My reason for being here is not to actually grow in my Messiah, to allow my circumcision and to asak with my brethren. You see, the true essence of discipleship, and the reason why people engage in lashon hara, or derogatory speech about their brethren in ignorance, is largely because there isn't discipleship in their lives. So the only option you got left to you is lashon hara, whereas true discipleship, true midrash, allows for hasak, which is the strengthening, encouraging, and building up. And it doesn't mean it's weak. It doesn't mean there's not correction, not reproof in there, that there's not, a bit of biffo and all that kind of stuff. Hasak is not a weak position. But lashon hara is a very different thing, and I'm seeing it all over the body right now. I see it in the, although the Christian side wouldn't know what I meant when I said lashon hara, and often the Hebrew Messianic side doesn't know what I mean when I say that. But this derogatory speech in ignorance with agenda, all because of either personal idolatry or pride, or trying to protect their little patch, or
just being butthurt.
Yeah. Being just emotionally, they've got some serious emotionally arrested development, whatever it is. And the fact of the matter is we can all get sucked into this.
Very much so.
It's for us to start, getting into a different pattern, a different way of doing this, so that we can grow and move forward as a body. But if we're going to be surprised that people have different views or understandings, or get upset about that, and then behave badly as a result, then what's really in question here is our character. And have we grown to the fullness of Messiah? Do we think we're something or not? And this is what I'm saying to people, we need to get over ourselves. We all do. And so, things like these kind of programs in the Messiah, they really do expose, I find often the character in people more than the theology, if that makes sense,
Oh, yes, I have dealt with a few characters that, but you know what? It all boils down. It really does boil down to a heart issue. Being butthurt is a heart issue. Being, offended is a heart issue. It's the way that we've been taught in this society. It's kind of like, oh, well, that offends me. I can get mad and get upset and get belligerent. And, ultimately, lashon hara happens in these things. And it's like, no, that's not nowhere near biblically how Yeshua says to deal with things, especially with a brother. It's like you want to get mad and just try to throw your brother under the bus. Oh, well, he did X, Y. It's like we miss the point of actually trying to work through our problems and get to the next level of discipleship. On the very basics, we blow it because it's kind of like, oh, well, he pissed me off last Thursday. So what?
We'll get into this for the program one day. Like
I know, but it just, it's very near and dear to my heart, just as it is yours, because we've been kind of the wool has been pulled over our eyes with this discipleship thing, because of, we think home groups or these little things are discipleship, and it's not. It's nowhere close.
Or Christian universities, or board meetings, or yeshivas or,
Yeah.
the teachings
Any
in
of them.
class.
Any of them.
It's like, no, I'm sorry. The element of walking and allowing things at the emotional level in an intimate environment cannot be manufactured any other way than the pattern that Yeshua gave us.
That's it.
And so all of these things that we're seeing in the religious systems do not suffice. They just don't.
They don't
And
cut it at all.
so the challenge is then for us to learn how to engage again in the way that and allow it the way he demonstrated. And this is the journey now to understand this and to for us to grow in this. But most will not enter into it or will try to avoid it simply because it cannot be controlled, or they're scared of that level of intimacy or accountability, or oh, I'm going to be found out, or whatever else it is. And so I get all this kind of a thing. So we'll get into that seriously in that message, but I want to keep addressing, another question that was raised in relationship to the presentation with the Messiah deception. This came from part 4, and somebody was kind of saying, they were just talking about this relationship of, the son of the Pope, Cesar Borgia, and Leonardo da Vinci, and these sorts of things. And I actually want to make this very clear, and I don't know if I made it actually clear in the teaching. I have to go back and watch it. But this is suspected because Leonardo was a known homosexual, and there was some real scenarios or controversies that surrounded Cesar Borgia and another completely separate incident, which suggested that he also engaged in that activity. And in fact, to be honest with you, around that day and age, a lot of this activity actually wasn't that uncommon. And so, but these are assumptions that were made. Okay, because what we do know historically is that they were close, intimate friends. Now, how intimate? And is there evidence that they had sexual relationships? No, there's not. Not that I'm aware of, at least historically. So that is a conjectured or put forth position. What isn't conjecture is that Leonardo was fond and close to Cesar. And so, these paintings and things that were done of him, and their friendship was real and was known and understood historically. And so, did that lead to intimacy to the degree of a sexual relationship? I don't know. There's nothing in Leonardo da Vinci's diaries or writings that even speak of this. And certainly, I'm not sure, or I'm not aware personally of anything historically, of anything coming from the Cesar Borgia. But what we do know is the relationship and the sanctioning of the painting, which was then put forth through the political religious agenda that was used to create this image of our Messiah, which was then used as a part of the religious programming and the whitewashing of things and everything else. So what is historical fact is that painted this of Cesar, and this was used politically. Why not? That's what I meant in the teaching, not that there's some sort of secret documents that record the love affair of. That's not what I meant. Although it was suspected and conjectured, or naturally is, but that doesn't mean it was so. But we do know that the intimate relationship and the sanctioning of this, and the known sexual preferences
used to how the painting was used,
and how it was used, that there at least was a fond affection and a very serious friendship there, and then that got used. And so that's what I meant by the historical reality there. So I just wanted to, if there was any ambiguity or unclarity around that, because like I say, sometimes when they're shocked when they're saying, this image was born of a homosexual relationship, quite possibly it was actually born to that level, but it's a bit misleading to say that we have historical record that actually occurred between the two. So I just want to, it's just things like that. And sometimes when you're sharing something or teaching something, you're trying to make a point that you're mixing up, some statements. And I didn't want anybody to have any lack of clarity on that front, or at least from my position where I'm coming from.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so that was more the inference. There didn't need to be an actual physical sexual relationship for this to be put forth for all the wrong reasons with all the wrong agendas, and so that's more the issue there. So I just wanted to touch on that, which was something that had been raised with me, for anybody who's. There was also there was three things. You raised the one about the name there. There was one about Caesarea. There was another one. Oh, I raised the literal fulfillment of Shavuot, and where the priest, he comes and waves the sheath offering at Shavuot, the first of the first fruits. This whole literal, not Shavuot, in the week of unleavened, with the first of the first fruits, where the high priest waves the sheaf offering, right?
Yep.
And I made the statement that there was a first person direction, to Daniel.
Yeah.
That you, Daniel, seal these words until the time of the end. Well, that's interesting because he's not in an immortal state at that point.
No.
And it is first person in the Hebrew, and it's like, well, you got to reconcile with this. What's going on? And then you see John later on actually identifying there's 24 elders in a present tense, as it's being used in the book of Revelation, seeing the 24 elders around the throne. We know that Yeshua was resurrected and raised to the throne, and we know that there was these saints that were verified,
whatever, right? Yep.
Raised before the resurrection of Yeshua. And when Yeshua was resurrected, he then allowed these ones to be known and to be seen. And then, of course, we see this. We know that Moses, before all this was seen, and Elijah, and so.
Yep.
And so you're starting to work out that something went down. We know that Jude had access to some very serious information, apparently over the dispute of the body of Moses.
Exactly.
Between Hasatan
with Hasatan and who was it? Michael, right? Hasatan and Michael. Continue.
So how did Jude give testimony to this knowledge? So he was having, obviously, I believe, some serious conversations with the first of the first fruits, which had been resurrected. Then Yeshua gets resurrected. He presents them.
Yep.
The high priest waving.
High priest presenting the sheaf.
But one of the people had raised the question. It was a great question because I love it. See, this is the right way around. People are thinking because they're listening to what I'm saying and they're going, well, what about this? Daniel wasn't, buried in Jerusalem. And absolutely, I don't think he was. There is an inter-Jewish tradition that he was buried basically in what we think in modern day Iran. I don't personally hold to that. Yeah, in Persia. There's also a very strong argument that he was buried actually in Syria. And this would have been a lot closer to Damascus. I tend to more lean towards that in understanding of this. The point I wanted to make with this is that in a resurrection event such as this, fulfilling literally one of the appointed times, I don't think it actually matters where his body was physically decaying to be in order to be presented in a glorified state you're
putting the creator back in a box.
Exactly. Like, again, let's not get caught up in whether, he was buried in Persia or he's buried in Syria or whatnot, or he wasn't buried in Jerusalem. The resurrection from the grave, wherever they were, didn't have to be in Jerusalem. No. And now they were seen in and around Jerusalem.
But where was the king buried at? You know what I mean? Like, he was buried there.
And they were resurrected before Yeshua was resurrected. Right. But when he was resurrected, the high priest is confirming and presenting, the first of the first fruits. And so this was my point. But it was a great question. And see, this is what I love when people think. Because right away they're going, well, wait a minute, where was Daniel buried, right? Well, this is a fair question. So it gives me now to sort of say, well, look, I actually don't believe that this was an issue for an immortal resurrection. And if you think it through, but I do think you'd find it interesting. No, he wasn't buried. I don't believe he was buried in Jerusalem. I do believe it was actually in Syria, but Jewish tradition actually holds it more in Persia. And then I said, look, let's perspective, doesn't matter. The real issue here is Daniel's being instructed, you, Daniel, seal this to the time of the end. Well, wait a minute. He's in an immortal state. He's going to die. How the heck does this instruction even make sense? And this is why I say that, when people say, well, what's your end times eschatology? And I say, it is an appointed time eschatology. I take it seriously. I take it literally. The spring Moedim were fulfilled in sequence, right? Same year, sequence to the day. I believe the fall will be in sequence the same year to the day, because that's the only pattern I have biblically. Well, our challenge is now to understand all of this that points to the first and second coming of Messiah, the whole plan of redemption that speaks all about him, that we are told to honor or dress rehearse every year. In the same year, in sequence to the day. So we're being told to honor it the exact way it's going to be fulfilled. I don't have any other position that I believe in. People say, well, what's your end time eschatology? And I say, it's a Moedim eschatology, or it's an appointed time eschatology. And they just look at you stunned. And I'm going, biblically, I believe it's the only end times eschatology we can have.
Well, it's the only example we have.
Yeah, but the waters have been so muddied by Mystery Babylon and dispensationalism and all of these things that have crept in that a lot of people don't, even though they might have gone over from Christianity to the Messianic Hebrew roots, they have no idea. You're still carrying all this baggage of how you were taught Bible prophecy. You just took it with you over to the other side of the riverbank. It's still in you. Yep. And you're still trying to understand prophecy through a leavened lens. And what I'm saying is that let's just get back to these basics and to these things, these warnings that were given certainly by Paul, because he went right back to the garden. I fear lest you're being deceived. As Eve was in the garden, you're talking about immortal, unfallen positions being deceived, and I think I can't be, or you can't be, or you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Well, we need the Ruach, we need each other, we need His Word. Because that's what we have right now.
Yep.
And as we grow to the character of Messiah, then we will see people being used in the fivefold capacity as the Ruach wills, as Paul talked about. Yes. And that's all. And so we don't have to make this all weird. But we really do tend to do this. And so Mystery Babylon does this, and this is what was such a big part of what I was trying to do before relaying the Messiah deception. So anyway, I just wanted to also address those two things, Daniel. I'm not sure if there was any other questions.
No,
I know
not really. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, people enjoyed it, and I think they locked onto it. I did want to bring up the fact, because of let me see, I had it pulled up here, the whole name thing, right? And this actually is kind of weird because last night I had a fella I met who was kind of part of a sacred name group, and he's like, I don't really see what's wrong with sacred name thing or this or that. And I was like, well, you realize it's not like you said, abracadabra. It's not you say the name and some magical stuff happens. That's not, I said it has to do with the authority, number one.
By the way,
name.
Not that it's not an honorable pursuit to want to respect or want to pronounce his name correctly. That's honorable in his pursuit. Very
honorable. And he knew where I was coming from, but I brought this up. I said, because he said, well, what's your position on it? I said, my position on it is none of y'all are right. He goes, what do you mean? I said, because in Revelation, it says his eyes were like a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and having a name that has been written, which no one has perceived except himself. I was like, so there's a name he has that no one knows. So whatever name we've given him or we've known throughout it's not right. So I'm like, I don't think it's honoring him, not trying to
name title we're not aware of.
Exactly. But then, because then it goes on down, it says, and on his robe and on his thigh, he has a name written, Sovereign of Sovereigns and Masters of Masters. It's kind of like, the whole King of Kings and Lord of Lord type of thing. But it's like, that's not a name. That's a title. He is the master of all, and he is the Lord of all type of thing, but it's not his name. Now, we have Yeshua. We know that, and even that there's some biblical pronunciations that people have an issue with, but it's the authority part. Like, people don't understand. It's like, okay, you want to call him Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahuwah, whatever. Like, I don't have a problem with that, but just know that, like, you have to respect the authority. It's like, you don't, that's, you know, it's like even people I hear Hashem or I don't know what, it still has to do with his authority, not his name. It's his authority. And people just, they still think it's this magical incantation thing. Like if, you know, if I pray for somebody and use the only name that we were given, Jesus, and people get healed, it's like, listen, I know people have gotten healed with people praying that name over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know people have got healed, who've got prayed using Yehoshua or Yahweh or Yeshua. It's not the name. That's not, that we're focusing too much on that part. You're not focusing on the power that did it. You know what I mean? It's like that's
Phonetic pronunciation.
yeah.
And we're 50 years later, and we're speaking English in this Western mindset. We've got vowels that
We're
eventually.
so far away from, removed from the way it could have ever been pronounced.
Look, I take it back to people. Honorable pursuit to want to be respectful of our Messiah and our King, and our Savior.
Absolutely. No
Honorable.
problem with that.
But if it's grabbing you to such a level that you're causing division in the body over it, you might really want to understand that this is something that could be actually going against the actual character of Messiah.
Yes.
And so I think these things highlight that what is important. So the very discussion itself can maybe hopefully lead us to a healthier position. But I just say to people, whether it be, like I say, people caught up in the sacred name movement, to those who are caught up defending the name of Jesus, look, to both sides, please. You know, if this truly was just about phonetically pronouncing, then you're really reducing the power of the Ruach to a magical spell. And this is the warning of abracadabra. Yeah, this is the warning of occult practice. This is what they do. And so let's not use our King's name or our love to want to respect him or to honor him and whatnot. Let's not use it to such a level where we actually start entering in to occult practices ourselves and actually misrepresenting his character and causing division in the body of Messiah as a result. We need to allow people their journey as they come out of Babylon. On either side, and know that this is just going to be a process for all of us. It has been for thousands of years. It's always has been, always will be. So if we keep demanding people to be exactly where we're at with our understanding 100% of the time, all the time, then we are going to start to control or to lord over people according to my current understanding. And this was something Yeshua warned about. It's called Nicolaitism. This is something that was actually he hated because it actually prevented people from actually being able to come to him and to grow and to know him. And none of us want to be in that position of actually causing the little ones or not to be able to come to him. And from a spiritual sense. So we want to really try and, sort of work through these things. And so, I always just kind of say, look, let's just be careful in our pursuit of truth, in our pursuit to want to love him, to know him, to be respectful in this pursuit of his knowledge. All these sorts of things that we don't, the heart is desperately wicked and who can know it? And this is the platform and position for which we're trying to seek his truth from. So what he's saying is without the heart circumcision, it's likely you're going to entertain some deception and some mystery doubt.
Yeah.
And that's really what the series was doing.
And I just want to put this out there because we'll be closing up here real soon, but it's okay to give people space where they're at. Demanding that they say something the way you should say it, demanding that they keep Passover or one of the feast days on the day that you keep it. Stop. Be very thankful that this person is circumcised in their heart enough to go, you know what? I want to get ready to meet my King. And if he tells us to do this, I'm going to do the best job I can do at what I have and what I know while I'm growing. And you know what? Be thankful that at that stage, because that's something the Ruach can work with.
Yeah.
Don't go over there and throw a freaking Bible at them and be like, you idiot, Passover's next Tuesday. Well, you know what? Leave them alone. Just pray for them, help them any way you can, and just be thankful that heart is looking to the King going, you know what? You're right. I should be doing these things you prescribed for us to do, and I'm going to try to learn them the best I can. And be thankful. Be like, wow, that's another brother or sister that's turning their heart towards the Messiah. It's like, I can work with that. and be patient. Guess what? People have been patient with me walking through this. It's kind of like there's people who's been doing this 10 times longer than me going, man, I wish you would just get it sometimes, idiot. You know?
Daniel, the Father has been patient with all of us.
That absolutely.
As I told you before, I've never met one single person ever in this walk who's Torah observant. I know of one, and I read about him in the Word, and he overcame, and he became the sinless sacrifice.
That's right.
Everyone else is trying to be Torah observant. We're trying to pursue and understand truth, and to go through this journey. But I have never met anyone who is 100% Torah observant. So I'm going, what sense of righteousness are we really standing on? It's self-righteousness. And if we want to get rid of his righteousness in a situation, as I say to people, just bring your self-righteousness to the party.
And we're quick to do that. We're very quick to do that.
Into the situation so fast it's not even funny. And so I just saying to people, he's looking. There would be no reason for the blood of Yeshua, if we could all become the sinless lamb ourselves. we need to know Scripture only records one. Whoever done it. At the end of the book of Revelation, it says, because John was weeping because no one was worthy of opening the seals, and he's saying no one's worthy, and the messenger is comforting.
Like, no, man, somebody's got you. Calm down.
Somebody did it. He's got
it. You calm down.
And I'm saying to people, this is at the end, of this age. So that means it's not you.
That's right.
Or me.
Out of the running on that one.
It wasn't us that John saw. It wasn't us that overcame, that could break the seals.
You were the one he was crying over, going, y'all suck. Where are you at?
So,
it's very
important things to remember. So when we're looking at subjects this serious and this big, I think sometimes it's a way, I know it did for me, because I taught Bible prophecy for many years before I really had to go through some very serious correction and reproof with how I viewed it in fires of my life. And so I'm saying to people, look, I didn't escape having to go through this. I'm not meaning to offend you. I didn't pop out of the womb talking like this. We have to live our journeys. But understand, brother or sister, I'm not here trying to win arguments. I'm not here trying to. I'm doing my best to serve, and the fact that I can win an argument is not what Yeshua hopefully has me serving for. Is to win arguments. It's to share my journey today, the truth as best I understand today, the truth revealed, understanding of certain matters which have taken correction. And to be willing to share that, and then ultimately, I have to take the lashes because people engage in lashon hara now at whim, and I give them serious warnings, and we'll talk about this. This is one of the things that is considered an abomination to the Father.
Yep.
And this is spoken about in the Proverbs. Things that he actually hates, but the one is actually, when we take it to the point, sowing discord within the body through the tongue, and it says it's an abomination. So I'm like, wow, this is sobering, and so so let's grapple with these things together. When we look at things like the Messiah deception and with class of civilization, let's learn how to walk with one another, become a light again, because there's people that are starting to get, like I say, they're starting to get scared. They're starting to see that things are real. That evil is real.
Very real. Yes, sir.
There is adversary. There is, and as this happens, are they going to be able to come to sane, rational, emotionally stable people that can actually be a light, that understand their faith, that are willing to walk with one another, or are they going to come to the religious circus? I don't care which side of the river.
The harvest is full, but the laborers are very few. That's the truth.
But hopefully, like I said, I've got lots of great messages, and I want to thank people for that. And you've written to me and whatnot. And by the way, I've had my paw hurt, and I've always cleared the other day just to be able to type. And even now, it's very, very slow. I can't. It just and in moving and everything else, I just don't have the ability to get back to people. And I haven't physically had that ability. Now I'm trying to do an international move, and I'm trying to deal with all this sort of stuff. So please just have patience with me. I'm not ignoring you, and I really appreciate your words of encouragement and support. In fact, I've been astounded through this Messiah series how much a blessing it's been to a lot of people who've written to me and have said so. And so I'm really, I'm thankful for that, because that was the intent. It's not just to create, to upset people emotionally or to, create fear or, do all this kind of stuff. But it's to try and get a balanced and hopefully a mature perspective on the seriousness of what's being warned in Scripture and at what degree. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And I mean that sincerely. It's been wonderful. And please forgive me if I'm not coming back to you or getting back to you. I'm not ignoring you or something. I don't care. I am so limited right now, both Pip and I. We don't even, like I say, we have nothing literally right now at this point. Nothing. We got some bags and an injury and
a dog. You got a dog.
Yeah. So, I feel like a refugee to a certain degree at this point. And so just give us a chance to reestablish.
Yeah, I definitely think people understand. And, I'm very excited for the things that, we got coming up. So looking forward to it very much so. And I think the people will really enjoy once we really get the ball rolling and get on here without having some of the interruptions that we're having. And it's kind of weird because I've had a bunch of interruptions myself, and it's just frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is. Obviously, Father's in control and he allows them and they happen, and we just do our best to deal with them. So, and again, I want to thank everybody for their questions and for reaching out, during the series. And been very encouraged with a lot of the good feedback that we've had, with people really liking the way we're doing it. We got a couple of different things, trying to make the picture a little bit bigger. So just, logistical things we're going to try to fix and make a little better. But I'm very thankful that people's been liking it and that they're getting things out of it and even asking questions. That's what it's about. So,
Absolutely.
We'll get our brother Michael on here and get him going a little bit too, and I think people are really going to enjoy him. And again, if you guys watch this and there's still questions that you have after watching the series, type them in the comment or send an email or links are down at the bottom of the thing. We'll try to get back to you as quick as we can. Obviously, Curtis probably not as quick because he's got a lot of things coming up very, very soon, and it's with his hand and stuff like that. But send them. We won't ignore them. We'll try to get to them and maybe reach out and get you an answer or something the best we can. But I want to thank everybody for watching. And I just ask that you pray for Curtis and Pip as they make their journey across the lake or pond or whatever you want to call this giant body of water you're going across, and keep them in prayer because, they're very near and dear to my heart, and I know they are to a lot of other people. And I really can't wait to get to spend time with you, man, on a without a computer screen in front of us. We'll have to
that's good.
So,
that's good.
But we'll cut it off here as far as this goes. And like I said, keep subscribe, check the bell. It'll let you know when we post videos. And we're going to try to start getting more of this content out as soon as we can. I've been very busy myself. So, and I just want to wish everybody have a great Passover. Just remember why you're doing it and why you're, celebrating it. Don't let it be a religious thing. Let it be a thing with you and the Messiah, and just have an awesome Passover.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen. I look forward to having some fun day when I get over there. We're going to be doing some interesting stuff. In fact, we're going to have a world first on this program in one of our series on this, and I'm going to release some stuff I've never spoken to anybody about that was in the fires of my life 10 years ago. So it's getting closer to time to say, and this is going to ruffle some feathers.
I'm sure. Yeah, we got a lot of great stuff. Just bear with us, and just give us a chance to get the things we need to get done, and just pray and let the Father provide for us to be able to do the things we need to do and take care of our families. And we love you guys, and we appreciate you guys watching, and we just want to say, have a great day. Have a really great day. And it's Shabbat where I'm at. So Shabbat Shalom to y'all who are going to see this then. And, have an awesome
Daniel, I appreciate it. Honor to be on the program as always. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for everybody who's been praying and writing and giving support. Just can't say enough how wonderful this community and Torah Made Flesh really is. Love it. And what a wonderful group of people. So thank you.
Yes, they are. All right.
Shalom from New Zealand.
All right. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great night. Shalom.